Pro-life leaders are rarely in the limelight or receiving prestigious awards, but tonight is different. A who's who of the pro-life community have gathered together here at the Ritz-Carlton in Washington, D.C. We're honoring this year's recipients of the Life Prizes Award. Stay with us to find out who won and what they did to receive it. The second Life Prizes Award Gala was held on January 22nd in Washington, D.C. It recognized the efforts of pro-life leaders who are working to preserve the sanctity of life throughout the world. I sat down with each winner to get their reactions to this prestigious honor.
I was really shocked. I'm a talkative person. I didn't really say anything for a few minutes. It was pretty exciting, to call the office and say, guess what, I have a big surprise to tell you next week.
I was rather dumbfounded, actually. Ray Ruddy called up to inform me that I'd been selected as one of the winners. But I'm very much honored by this. I really consider that I'm accepting it on behalf of all of the people who we represent, who we work with.
What first came to my mind is, why me?
I said, what? And it took me a moment. It took my breath away. I was surprised and humbled and very grateful.
I was very honored because there's so many wonderful people in the pro-life movement who do fantastic work, and it was just quite an honor for me to be selected, and it was humbling.
It was such a blessing. Our organization's been struggling financially. We won the award. I remember our family was just very honored and just, I can't put into words, so we just felt very blessed.
The Life Prizes are an initiative of the Girard Health Foundation, a private charity of Ray and Marilyn Ruddy. I talked with Ray, a longtime pro-life philanthropist, to learn about this year's recipients.
The Life Prizes originated because when I entered the pro-life movement, I recognized that there was no significant monetary award for those that were really the heroes in the pro-life area. And we decided at that point in time that we really wanted to do something positive to recognize these heroes and also to give them significant funds to carry on their work.
How will this year's awards be similar and different from the last time you did this?
They're different awardees, obviously. And also you take such people as the Schiavo Schindler Foundation, and that deals with end-of-life issues, so that we have a different grouping this time that deals with different types of life issues, but all dedicated to preserving life.
Ray, how do you think these awards will impact the pro-life movement as it's functioning?
We have to look back at the 2008 awards that we gave out. Every one of those people kept in touch with us and continued to tell us what they were doing. So I think it has helped those continue to do their work and expand their work, the ones that are doing it best.
Dr. Alveda King is the niece of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and one of this year's award recipients. She's become one of the most notable voices in standing up for the rights of unborn children and their mothers.
By praying and marching and working with the African American community, working with Priests for Life, and so many wonderful pro-lifers, the pregnancy care centers, those who pray in front of the abortion clinic, ministries like that established by the Wilkies, of course. All of these wonderful people who have one goal in mind, and having a pro-life family. My mother is pro-life, my dad was, my granddaddy, and what people really didn't know, my Uncle Martin Luther King Jr. And so coming from a family that cares about human dignity and being allowed to serve as a pro-life warrior is one of the highlights of my life.
How do you think winning this prize will affect your organization?
My first thought was, wow, now I can save more babies. As soon as I got that call, and I knew I would get the award, I began to think of all the projects that I wanted to do through King for America and in my extension with Priests for Life and the National Black Pro-Life Movement. And so I just began to think of things. I can have a Black History pro-life meeting now and really do it and show MAFA to more people. So all these things just began to explode and to burst forth, and I was so excited, and my children were like, well, we know what you're going to do with it, but we're glad you can do it.
Marie, tell me about your role within the pro-life movement.
Well, Brad, I'm the founder and director of the Parliamentary Network for Critical Issues, and I know it sounds a little confusing, but a parliamentarian is a member of a national government. So, of course, in the United States, we know them as congressmen. In the UK, they're parliamentarians. And so, generically, they're kind of called parliamentarians worldwide, and we work with them to help advance laws and policies that respect life at all stages. And of course, you particularly are very aware of my work, and I worked with Life Issues Institute on this very effort for a number of years, at least 3 years. And I just I'm appreciative of the support for Life Issues Institute and what we did together, to let people know overseas what we were doing and the network that we developed with lawmakers, religious leaders, and members of organizations who really want to advance the respect and dignity of life.
Marie, how do you think the prize will affect your organization and what you're able to do?
Well, I think it'll help to give it more credibility, to raise the profile a bit. Even within our own pro-life movement, there's not that much awareness of what's happening international. And so I'm really excited that the international pro-life work is being acknowledged with the Life Prize. And look forward to greater involvement of more organizations and individuals in the United States.
When we return, we'll hear from the Executive Director of Students for Life of America, Kristan Hawkins, Jeanne Head, an experienced obstetric nurse, National Right to Life's Legislative Director, Doug Johnson, and Bobby Schindler from the Terri Schiavo Life and Hope Network.
Look around you. We're surrounded by people who courageously face difficult obstacles life has thrown in their paths. Tune in each week to meet people who show there are positive, godly solutions to tough, critical situations. This Emmy Award-winning show tackles challenging life issues such as abortion, stem cell research, and adoption, and shows every human life is valuable and precious. Join us for inspiring stories of people facing life head on.
Kristan Hawkins is the Executive Director of the largest pro-life student group in the world, Students for Life of America. She's dedicated to educating, equipping, and empowering students on campuses across the country. The goal is to end abortion and help women and families choose life. I sat down with Kristan to learn about the progress Students for Life has made in just a few short years.
When we started in 2006, there were maybe a little over 150 Students for Life groups that we knew already existed. Today, there's 572. We'll be well over 600 by the end of this year. So that's remarkable growth in just 4 short years of our field program. So we've really seen a big increase in student activism, of students standing up, speaking out, saying we're going to have a voice for life on campus.
How do you think winning this prize will affect your organization?
For us, it gives us some stability. Once we found out about the award, we had been thinking about what can we do at the National March for Life? What can we do to engage the young people? And we've been tossing around some ideas, and once I knew we were getting the award, I said, let's do the National Pro-Life Youth Rally.
As the Director of Federal Legislation for the National Right to Life Committee, Doug Johnson has been an indispensable figure on Capitol Hill for the past 30 years regarding the life issues.
Well, I've been the Legislative Director for National Right to Life for about 30 years. And this has been a real privilege because it's allowed me to work with a lot of terrific people representing the pro-life movement as a whole to our federal representatives.
Doug, how do you think this award will affect your organization and what you're doing?
Well, hopefully it may draw some attention to the work that we do here in Washington and representing the pro-life movement before the Congress. There's always a need for more people to be involved at the state and local level, and that's the only way that we can be effective. There's no reason why anybody here in Washington and Congress or elsewhere should pay any particular attention to me or my associates, except in as much as they recognize us as speaking for and representing people back home who are paying a lot of attention and who care a lot about the pro-life issues. So if in some small way this recognition draws attention to our work in this aspect of the pro-life movement. We think that's a very helpful thing.
Jeanne Head is an experienced obstetric nurse who's been serving as a volunteer in the pro-life movement since 1970. Jeanne, tell me about your role within the pro-life movement.
Where do you want me to start?
You'll have to summarize it because you've done so much.
I got involved in 1970 when New York passed its permissive abortion law. And I didn't know anything about right to life at that time, and I tried to do what I could before it passed, but it was ineffective. I didn't know anything about lobbying. I wish now I'd gone to Albany. So I helped organize Manhattan Right to Life, and then later Metropolitan New York Right to Life Foundation, and then got fully involved in New York State Right to Life and National Right to Life, and got on the board of National Right to Life, and now I'm Vice President for New National Affairs.
How do you think it's going to affect your work, this award?
It's going to make my work a lot easier, because I don't have to worry so much about where the money's coming from.
Yeah, big plus. What does the future hold for you?
Well, I'm going to continue doing what I can until I can't do it anymore, and I hope to die with my boots on.
Bobby Schindler is the brother of Terri Schiavo. After Terri's death, the Schindler family put their pain and grief into action and founded the Terri Schiavo Life and Hope Network.
After my sister, Terri Schiavo, died back in March 2005, our family got together and realized how important this issue was. And we also recognized that this wasn't an isolated case. What happened to Terri wasn't a one-time event, so to speak. That what happened to her was happening every day, and that those with brain injuries like Terri their lives were in jeopardy of being killed the same way hers was. So we thought it was important to carry on her legacy and from that point on advocate for other families, other Terris that were possibly in threat of being killed the way she was.
So what is your foundation doing to counter that?
Well, our primary objective is to help and aid families. If they call us with a family who's in jeopardy of being killed, we'll do what we can, support them, help them with legal aid, help them with if they may need a physician to help. We'll do what we can to support and help them family to protect their loved one. And we're also doing as much as we can educating the public and spreading awareness on this issue because it's a widely misunderstood issue. I think most of our nation, our culture is being educated by the media on this issue, and we're seeing it's very dangerous because there's so much misinformation, not only about Terri's case, but as I said, about this issue, and our family's doing whatever we can to try and let people know that just because someone is brain injured doesn't mean that they should be any more vulnerable to being killed than someone who's able-bodied.
In a moment, we'll be back with more from the Life Prizes Awards Gala.
Whether you're a student needing answers, a parent needing help, or a concerned citizen wanting to make a difference, Life Issues Institute has the resources you need to put your values into action. Life Issues Institute is an international educational organization committed to protecting innocent human life. Life Issues Institute knows what it takes. That's why millions throughout the world turn here for help. Life Issues Institute has authored more pro-life publications than any other entity in the world, and its materials are printed in over 30 languages. Radio broadcasts, newsletters, and a website filled to the brim with the answers you're looking for are just a click away. Go to facinglife.tv and click on the link to Life Issues Institute to find out more about how you can change the heart of a nation.
Receiving an award of $100,000 is a true blessing for this year's Life Prize Award recipients. It's a reward for their effective pro-life work and will aid their efforts in the future. And their work the next few years could be crucial to the pro-life movement. Thankfully, many of them remain encouraged and hopeful we'll one day see an end to abortion. Are you optimistic about the coming months ahead?
Well, I think we we may very well be able to repair some of the damage that's been done over the last couple of years. But we still have very formidable obstacles, with one House of Congress still in the majority leadership hands that's hostile, and of course the White House is in hands that is not at all hospitable to our point of view. But it'll be a big change from the last 2 years, when we really were almost entirely in a defensive posture.
What does the future hold for you?
Well, God only knows that, but as far as I'm concerned, we're going to just continue on expanding our network. We have contacts now in close to 80 countries, and something that a lot of people may not be aware of, there's 194 countries basically in the world. It depends whether you count Taiwan and the Vatican as a country, but for our purposes we'll count 194 countries, and out of those 138 restrict or prohibit abortion. So we are really in the majority, the pro-life view internationally, and we're really just trying to keep that defense strong to protect these laws that really do recognize the children in the womb as valued members of the family.
With the abortion issue, I think you can look at the Roe versus Wade, the law, and overturning that as being a giant step into hopefully someday protecting the unborn child. I think with this issue, with euthanasia, with imposed death, with taking away food and water from people that aren't dying, the brain injured, I think it's going to be a much more difficult task, because there's not really one law that can be overturned to push back this agenda. So right now we just focus on helping individual families and raising education and awareness. And I know people say it all the time, but it is a matter of changing hearts. I think this issue is perhaps where the abortion issue was 35, 36, 37 years ago. Yeah. Because the pro-life issue has done a fantastic, a terrific job on educating the public on the horrors of abortion. And I think that's where we are with this issue, and hopefully it won't take as long, but I think it's just a lot of work educating the public.
America now is beginning to listen. And so you see a cultural and a shift in the climate, in the political realms, in the social realms, in the community realms, in the family realms. We see that people are now listening and they want to make a difference. So it's very encouraging. I'm believing that abortion will end soon. 38 years, that's too long.
Indeed.
So it's time to be over. And then we rebuild, we reconstruct, and we design a movement now where abortion will be unthinkable.
Coming up, we'll hear from our guests how one person's efforts can truly make a difference.
Look around you. Every day, heroes abound in our country. We're surrounded by people who courageously face difficult obstacles life has thrown in their paths. Tune in each week to meet people who show there are positive, godly solutions to tough, critical situations. We'll tackle challenging life issues such as abortion, stem cell research, adoption, and abstinence, and show that every human life is valuable and precious. Join us for inspiring stories of people facing life head-on.
Today, we've celebrated the work and accomplishments of the Life Prize Award winners, and they all have different strengths, but one thing they share is the belief one person can truly make a difference. Bobby, do you think one person can really make a difference?
Oh, absolutely. I think my sister Terri has, because if it wasn't for her, we wouldn't be in a position to help other families. And because of her, we've saved lives doing what we're doing. We've helped families protect loved ones from being killed. And I think it was Father Perfone that once said, and I don't think Father Perfone said this, but he once told me, he said, you save one life, you save the world. And so we kind of think of that when we help other families.
I had a student president, she's one of our Wilberforce Fellows this year, text me and said, pray for me. One of my group members is considering having an abortion. It's a new pro-life group and they're very focused on support. And they were very worried, because here's a girl who said she was pro-life and then she was thinking, I don't know what I'm going to do, in that moment of panic. And so we worked with Megan, and Megan actually is now going to be the godmother of the child. But so I've seen it happen multiple times. So one person can make a difference.
One person can make a difference. I go back to the New York State law, which allowed abortion on demand through 24 weeks of pregnancy. The law was a tie vote, and one assemblyman changed his vote at the last minute. And if someone could have prevented him from doing that, we would not have had abortion on demand in New York State. And so that one man made a big difference, because I truly believe that it was a New York law that led to the Supreme Court decision.
None of us can do enough. I can't do enough, you can't do enough. But if you do your part and I do my part, and everybody does their part, that would be enough. And so that's something that encourages me, knowing that I could never do enough. No one person can. But we can all make a difference as we join together, and I see that happening every day.
What advice would you have, Marie, for other pro-life advocates?
I think you need to really be committed to what you're doing, believe in what you're doing, believe in yourself, and not to get overwhelmed at the big picture, but just look at the task in front of you, and not look at the enormous challenge that's out there. But